You ever notice how sometimes life just feels heavier than it should? You wake up, you go through your normal routines, you do the things that you're supposed to do, but there's this underlying weight. You can't explain it, but it's there. You feel it when you drag yourself out of bed. You feel it when you go through your conversations that should be light, but instead it feels draining. You feel it at nighttime when you're in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering why you're so exhausted, even though you didn't really do anything physically demanding. That heaviness that you're feeling, most of the time, is not about work, it's not about money, and it's not even about the stress of everyday life. More often than not, that weight is the people that you have in your life. The people that you keep carrying around who really was never meant to be carried this long. Now, you might not think about it that way at first, because we don't usually blame people for our heaviness. We blame circumstances, we blame stress, bad luck. But if you think about it, how many times have you finished a conversation with someone and thought, I just feel drained? How many times have you, when the phone rang, looked at your phone, saw a certain name pop up, and you were like, oh God? That's the weight. That's the invisible heaviness that I'm talking about. You see, what the problem is that you've probably been carrying it for so long that it feels normal. You've adjusted your shoulders, you've adjusted your posture, you've adjusted your life to accommodate their presence. And when something becomes normal, you stop questioning it. You just learn to live with it. But here's the truth. Just because you've gotten used to carrying something doesn't mean that you're supposed to. I want you to picture this. Picture yourself walking through life with a backpack. Every person you let into your life places something in that backpack. Some of the people would drop feathers, something light, something supportive, uplifting energy. And other people would drop bricks. And the thing is about life is that you don't always notice how heavy that backpack is getting because you're too busy moving through life. But then one day you take the backpack off, and for the first time in your life, you stand up straighter, you breathe easier, and you realize how much of your strength was being used just to carry the wrong people. That's what letting go feels like. But let's be honest, it's not that easy because we're not talking about strangers here. It's easy to let strangers go. We're talking about the people you may have known for years, a best friend that you've known for the past 30 years or since childhood, a family member that you feel obligated to sticking by, a partner that you love, but deep down inside, you know that the relationship really isn't healthy. And we understand that these are not light decisions. They're some of the hardest choices that you'll ever make because love, history, and loyalty can trick you into carrying people long after you should have set them down. So let's break it down like this. First of all, love, as we know, is powerful. And it convinces you to stay in places that no longer serve you. You tell yourself, but I love them. And that feels like reason enough to just stay there. But let me tell you that love without peace, love without growth, love without respect, that's not love that builds you. That's love that breaks you. And carrying someone just because you love them doesn't make you strong. It makes you heavy. Second of all, history. You got years with this person. Memories, shared moments. They know your past. They've seen you go through your struggles, and you don't want to feel like all of that was wasted. But here's the thing. Just because someone was a part of your story doesn't mean that they're supposed to be a part of your future, because not every chapter is meant to be carried into the next. And sometimes the best way to honor the history is to acknowledge that it served its purpose and now it's complete. And third of all, loyalty. Loyalty is beautiful until it becomes a cage. You tell yourself they've always been there for me and I just can't walk away now. But loyalty to someone else should never require that you betray yourself. And every time you choose their comfort over your peace, you betray yourself. That's not loyalty, that's bondage. So now here's the question. Who are you carrying right now? Who adds heaviness every time they walk into the room, every time they call, every time their name crosses your mind? But I want you to just pause right here, because I know that you might be thinking, but how do I know for sure What if I'm just being too sensitive? Here's how you would know. Pay attention to your body, your energy, and your peace. Real connection leave you feeling recharged, even if the conversation is short. But toxic ones leave you feeling drained, even if the conversation seems normal. Your spirit knows the difference. The heaviness tells you everything that you need to know. But here comes the hard part, because letting go doesn't come without conflict. Sometimes people will call you selfish. Sometimes people will make you feel guilty. Sometimes they'll try to convince you that you're abandoning them. But if you think about it, if someone really truly cared about your peace, they would make you feel guilty for choosing it. The fact that they resist your distance only proves why you needed the distance in the first place. So here is another truth. You don't owe anybody any explanation. You don't need to justify protecting your peace. You don't need to write a speech about why you can't carry them anymore. Sometimes the best explanation is silence. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is simply living free without their weight on your back. So what does letting go look like? Sometimes it looks like the lack of conversation. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it's quietly deciding not to pick up the phone anymore. Because letting go doesn't always have to be dramatic. It often looks like small choices made consistently. Choices to say that I love myself enough not to carry what doesn't belong to me. But I know what you're probably thinking. After a while, the thought is going to come across your mind. But what if they need me? What if they fall apart without me? Well, baby, let me tell you something. You're not someone else's savior. You cannot fix them by breaking yourself. You cannot heal them by carrying their weight. Everyone has to learn to carry their own backpack in life. And if they refuse to, you're not wrong for setting yours down. So now let me tell you what happens when you do let go. At first, it's going to feel strange. It feels quiet. Sometimes you may even feel lonely. But if you give it a little while, peace will begin to set in. A deep, steady kind of peace. And with that peace comes clarity. You start to see opportunities that you couldn't see before. You feel like you have energy again. You start attracting people who lift you instead of drain you. And then one day you'll look back and realize that you didn't lose anything, that you gained everything by gaining yourself. And that's real freedom. So let me leave you with this perspective. Life is too short to carry people who were never meant to stay. The weight that you think is just part of life may not be life at all. It may just be them. The moment you set it down, you'll finally discover what life was meant to feel like all along. Light, free, and yours.